What's up, and welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast, your encyclopedia for the college basketball season. We are less than 2 weeks away, 13 days to be exact, from the first games of college basketball starting on November 4th. Today, we're getting into some of the best future bets you can place in relation to college basketball this season. We are also deep into charity exhibitions right now. Of course, let's jump to some conclusions that are completely unnecessary. These games are not games, they're exhibitions, but it's just fun to watch college basketball and gain a little bit of insight of who some of your players are going to be this year for some of those specific teams. A couple teams have really looked the part in some of these exhibitions. A couple teams still working things out, but of course, as noted, last year Purdue got drilled in a preseason exhibition game, and they ended up being the second best team in the country. So don't hold too much into these exhibition results, but still fun to pay attention to. And then, of course, the big news of the college basketball week: future Hall of Fame coach Tony Bennett retires. We'll talk about what this means not only for Virginia, but just college basketball in general. Before we dive into it, please make sure to like and subscribe. Before we move on, follow us on social media at Bracket Science with 2 S's. That's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Check out our website, bracketscience.org, to access some early access to some content. We also have our clothing line on there. Go check those out. Great deals on some clothing brands on there. Now let's dive into the trivia question of the day.
Trivia time!
All right, so since we're talking about betting today, we thought it would be appropriate to have a betting question. The question is, what was UConn's preseason odds to win the national championship last year? What do you think they were? Reminder that the favorites now are UConn, Kansas, Duke, depending on what sportsbook you find, usually right around that plus 1,000 range. What was UConn's preseason odds to win the national championship last year? Before we dive into Beej's breakdown with all the news and notes, including all the charity exhibition results, I want to give a shout out to our new clothing line. So watch the video real quick and we'll be right back. Are you looking to support your school with a nice college t-shirt that is not only stylish, but also comfortable? I have got the shirt for you. Take a look at our basic approach to a t-shirt without all the big logos, strictly getting to the point, just showing your team's name. These shirts are comfortable, they're stylish, they're basic, there's not too much going on. They come in the colors white and gray. They are a great deal right now. Go check them out on our website, bracketscience.org, link in the description. All right, go check those clothes out. Now let's dive into Beej's breakdown.
It's time for Beej's breakdown.
All right, let's start with the Tony Bennett news. So Tony Bennett announced he will be retiring. Obviously, a national championship coach from 2019, has struggled lately. So this means that Ron Sanchez will take over. So the big question was why. It was announced on Thursday, and then he had his retirement speech on Friday about why. He basically said it's just the state of the game. He says he's too old school. This is a side of it we haven't really thought of. Coaches are leaving early because they don't want to deal with all the drama in college sports right now, all the NIL money. Coaches just want to coach. That's what they are here for. They know how to coach basketball. They know how to run offenses, run defenses. Now it's a GM role. Now you have to recruit. You have to raise money through all the boosters. You have to please people 24/7. This leads to the question, could this mean that we eventually end up having GMs at the college level? Some schools have done it. Obviously, the big news of Adrian Wojnarowski, now the GM of St. Bonaventure. I think we're going to see more schools leaning to roles like this where you just got to get the coaches back to just coaching. It's been a great career for Tony Bennett. I was really excited about this Virginia team. If you've been following this for a while, I thought they had pretty good pieces, a good Tony Bennett team. But now these players do also have a 30-day transfer portal window, I guess, because of their coach leaving. It'd be weird. I mean, we're 13 days from the season. It'd be weird if these players transferred. I wouldn't put it out of the question, though. So big news, Tony Bennett retiring. Great career. Sad to see another coach go, a legendary Hall of Fame coach go, but it's just what we're dealing with in college athletics right now. All right, now let's dive into the notable exhibition games. We're going to talk about 18 of them. We're just going to go through them briefly, maybe a quick thought. Just some of the games to note. You can see that graphic pulled up on YouTube. It's the entire scoreboard. This is the kind of stuff we post on our Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, so go check those out. First game was number 2, Alabama. These are in order of ranked preseason teams as well, other than UCLA because they just played last night. But it's Alabama, the number 2 team in the country. They took on Wake Forest in an exhibition game. Alabama beat them 98-77. Alabama looked entirely the part. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they can really score the ball as we expected. Cliff Amore looked solid down low. Aiden Holloway looked really good for Alabama, scoring 20 points alongside Mark Sears, who scored 19. Alabama looking like the part right now. Number 5, Iowa State took down number 15, Creighton, 83-82 in a closely contested contest there. Keyshawn Gilbert went off for Iowa State, scoring 35 points. Another ranked-on-ranked matchup. Number 8, Baylor took down number 13, Texas A&M, 82-72, both schools in the state of Texas. Baylor got the better of Texas A&M in this exhibition. Number 9, North Carolina went to Memphis. This was a road game at Memphis and beat them 84-76. I got some questions about North Carolina, and the question is, are we overlooking them? It's North Carolina. Their guard play is spectacular. Seth Trimble went off for 33 points. Are we overlooking North Carolina? A lot of emphasis on Duke this year. North Carolina, right in that conversation. Going along with Memphis right now, that was the other big news that just came out. Their power forward, Tyreek Smith, just decided to step away from the program from Memphis. It's just the entire debacle of Memphis right now. If Memphis doesn't make the NCAA tournament this year, it will be just so disappointing. But Memphis looked kind of out of sorts in this game. They still hung with them. They got a ton of talent. Tyrese Hunter, I'm not sure how he's going to coexist with PJ Haggerty. That was a little bit of a question. I think they should kind of just give the keys to the kingdom to PJ Haggerty. We'll see. We'll see. North Carolina with the win. Texas, number 19, Texas dominated TCU in a State of Texas game as well. 82-52. Blowout for Rodney Terry's squad over Jamie Dixon in that exhibition. Number 20, Cincinnati took down Ohio State in the battle for Ohio. 80-62. Never a real close game. Ohio State did not have Aaron Bradshaw. He did not play. Also sticking in the state of Ohio, let's drive right up the street. Moving over on the graphic for those following along on YouTube, Xavier took down Dayton 98-74. Xavier dominated them. The big news for Xavier was Lucina Traore was noted as out for the season. Tough loss. The big man transfer from Long Beach State was looking to make a big impact this year. He's out for the season, but they do have the depth that can kind of replace him this year. I think Xavier's going to be very good. Obviously scoring 98 points. Kind of dominating Dayton. I'm a little lower on Dayton than most people. This kind of brings up my question. Is Ohio State the third best team in Ohio this year? A lot of pressure on Ohio State this year. They got a lot of pieces in the offseason, coaching change. A lot of NIL money, obviously. But if I were to pick right now, I think I would honestly go Xavier, Cincinnati, Ohio State, then Dayton. Yikes. I don't know. Ohio, looking pretty good. Not as good as Texas, but looking pretty good. St. John's took down number 25 Rutgers 91-85. It was just Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper for Rutgers doing all the scoring as we kind of expected. St. John's looked rock solid as they should be all year. St. Joseph's took down Providence 77-72. A lot of hype around St. Joe's this year. Notably Eric Reynolds, who is going to make a huge impact this season. They took down Providence. South Carolina took down North Carolina State, 2 NCAA tournament teams last year, 86-78. The Utah Utes took down Nebraska 75-73, kind of a shocking result there. Definitely thought Nebraska would get it done, but who knows? Again, a lot of these games are not televised, so I don't have all the information on all the players that played, especially like a couple of games were televised, North Carolina, Memphis, Alabama, Wake Forest was on YouTube, but a lot of these games weren't televised, so quite frankly, I haven't seen the box score. So who knows who really all played, but I'm just paying attention to the results right now. Kansas State took down Oklahoma 72-63. Coleman Hawkins, 14 points. Chor 11 points. Boise State dominated Washington 92-69. Watch out for Boise State this year. I think Boise State is going to be an absolute sleeper to make a deep run in March Madness this year. I think they are the best team in the Mountain West. North Texas took down SMU, former conference mates. Now SMU is in the ACC, from the AAC to the ACC. North Texas beat them 82-78. Vanderbilt took down UAB 93-89. Nice. Mark Byington getting the job done in a preseason game against a team who is the second favorite to win the American behind Memphis this year in UAB 93-89. Good win there. Build some confidence for that Vanderbilt squad. Mark Byington, very good coach. Texas Tech took down Drake 75-66. VCU took down Virginia 71-49. Yikes. Not again, Virginia. Not again with this offensive debacle. We'll see if they can recover. I know it was just recent that Tony Bennett retires and then your new coach. Whole thing. VCU is the favorite to win the Atlantic 10 this year, so it's a not a bad team. Not a bad team, but 49 points. Yikes. Let's get that taken care of. And then the game that just happened, San Diego State took down number 22 UCLA 72-67. San Diego State does not have a good roster this year. So if they're winning games like this once the season comes around, Brian Dutcher should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it would be ridiculous. Mick Cronin, we'll see. Once again, I don't know how many players Mick Cronin played. They're incredibly deep. I saw he played just about everyone, but the minutes obviously fluctuates a little bit. So something to keep an eye on there. If Brian Dutcher does it with this team, I mean, his team is not too talented this year. It will be incredible. Now, once again, these are just results. I wouldn't look too far into them. As mentioned, Purdue got slammed in a preseason exhibition game last year, and they got up to number 1 in the nation right away at the beginning of the year. So just bear in mind, but keep these results in play. A lot of like the games, Rutgers, St. John's, a game that I got to watch most of the game. They played their guys. So Alabama sat a lot of the guys. Grant Nelson didn't play. I mean, Latrell Wrightsell didn't play. A lot of guys did not play, and they still scored 98 points. So I mean, you can kind of have some thoughts in your mind, but don't dive too deep into this. Don't think, oh yeah, all right, St. John's Final Four team. I wouldn't do that just yet. Same like with Texas. I know they dominated, and I love Texas, but bear in mind, take it with a grain of salt. All right, now let's dive into a new segment we got, the Dudes of the Week. All right, our first Dude of the Week, as mentioned, Seth Trimble scored 33 points in that game for North Carolina against Memphis. He went off. He looked good. I've been talking up Seth Trimble for a while on this podcast. Know that name. Many people are throwing him into the starting lineup conversation now. I think he would come off the bench. I think it would make more sense for him to come off the bench with Cadeau and RJ Davis, obviously. I would bring him off the bench as just that sixth guy who still plays, 30-some minutes a game. I still don't think he's going to start, but, I mean, coming off the bench, if he can be that leading scorer and really provide a spark, man, watch out for North Carolina. Like I said, are we overlooking them? Our other Dude of the Week is Zuby Ejiofor from St. John. Scored 27 points and 13 rebounds in that game against Rutgers. Big night for Zuby Ejiofor. All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to dive into the best future bets you can place for this upcoming season. Alrighty, so we have got quite a few bets here. Now, I did do all the research on where you're going to want to what site you're going to want to use to place these bets. A lot of them are BetMGM. BetMGM has great future bet odds. Some of them are ESPN Bet, a couple FanDuels on here, but I did the research, found the best odds, and these are some of the best bets in order of what I would place. Now let's start with the conference bets that I would place. Now we're going to do two separate segments where we do just the best bets I think you can place, like most realistic bets that I think are bound to hit. And then we're going to do some long shot bets that I think have a good chance of hitting. So let's start with Alabama to win the SEC. I think I talked about this in our SEC preview. I think this is as close to a lock as you're going to find. I'm a little lower on Auburn than most people. I think Alabama their floor is so high. I've never seen a floor so high from an SEC school, I don't think, outside of a couple of those Kentucky teams. Their floor is so high. You can get them at plus 275 on ESPN Bet. Plus 275. That is great odds. $10 wins 27. That is great odds. I would recommend betting that on ESPN Bet. Alabama to win the SEC plus 275. My next best bet is Purdue to win the Big Ten. Plus 600 on BetMGM. Those odds are way too high. $10 wins you 60. That is great odds for this Purdue team. I know they lost Zach Edey, but they did the coaches poll for preseason player of the year. They voted Braden Smith, so even the coaches believe in Braden Smith. I believe Matt Painter is probably by far the best coach in the Big Ten. We give Dan Hurley that little boost. I think we should do the same thing with Matt Painter at Purdue. He produces every year. I think at plus 600, you can't really miss that. I would bet Purdue to win the Big Ten for those odds. Now let's move to some mid-major stuff here that I got. Let's do Towson to win the CAA. I think Towson is by far the most talented team in the CAA. They are the favorite to win the CAA, but at plus 225, I think they are kind of worlds above everyone else. I know there's a lot of talk about Charleston. I don't think Charleston is going to really compete. Charleston might be second or third. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be Towson, though. I really believe Towson at plus 225 is a great bet. Now, a couple just, lower odd bets where it's like, I think that it should, quite frankly, hit. Like, I don't see a world where it really doesn't hit. Princeton to win the Ivy League, plus 100 on BetMGM. Princeton has a guy by the name Xavion Lee who will be a pro. They return a lot of pieces. Princeton is way above the best teams in the Ivy League this year. They tied last year. This year, they're going to win the Ivy. Plus 100. You get your money back. It's pretty much free. Bet Princeton to win the Ivy. Same goes for Colgate to win the Patriot League. Plus 140 on BetMGM. Colgate wins the Patriot League every single year by more than one game. They got the best coach in the league. They got the best team in the league. Bet Colgate. Plus 140 to win the Patriot League on BetMGM. And then finally, I would have VCU to win the A10, plus 300 on BetMGM. There's obviously going to be a lot of talk around Dayton. I don't really see it with Dayton's team this year. Posh Alexander, good defender. Zed Key, big body. I think losing Deron Holmes is going to be a little bit too much. Same with Kobe Brea. I think it's VCU. I think VCU is the best team. Bart Torvik has VCU to win by a lot in the A10. So at plus 300, I think this is a good bet. I think VCU definitely gets the job done. All right, now let's move into some of the bets that are a little bit, the conference bets that are a little bit further of a stretch. Starting with the Big 12, I would personally stay away from the Big 12, but I know it's the best conference in college basketball by most people that are the SEC, so a lot of people are going to want to bet it. I don't think you can really go too far wrong with it. I wouldn't bet Arizona, first off. That would be my betting advice. My biggest betting advice, I guess, would be to stay away from the Big 12, but I wouldn't bet Arizona. I'm not going to hate if you bet Kansas at plus 250. Houston at plus 350, I like better than Kansas at plus 250. I like Baylor at plus 500. I think those odds are okay. I think my favorite bet would probably be Iowa State plus 700 on ESPN Bet. Those other odds are via BetMGM, by the way. Plus 700. I don't think you can really go wrong with that. It's just a coin flip at the top, so go with what your gut feels. I would personally stay away from it. I don't think there's that much value involved other than the plus 700 for Iowa State, maybe. The farther stretches, if you really want to go deep, we will place a bet in the Big 12. Texas Tech to win the Big 12 is plus 2,500 on ESPN Bet. Just to win the conference, that's pretty good. I mean, this conference is going to eat itself up. There's going to be a team that climbs towards the top that you don't expect out of this top five. I think it's going to be Texas Tech. I'm really looking forward to Texas Tech this year. Texas Tech plus 2,500, good odds. I wouldn't mind that bet. And let's move into the Big East. I know it might be crazy to bet anyone but UConn. Xavier and Marquette are plus 1,000 on ESPN Bet to win the Big East. UConn has been obviously just incredibly dominant. One of these years, they're going to come back to the field and it'll be up for grabs, and it could be a Xavier or a Marquette. I've noted on this a lot. I don't hate Creighton. I don't like the roster this year, though. I don't think they're going to live up to the expectations that they do. I think Xavier and Marquette at plus 1,000. Pretty good value there if UConn comes back to the field. All right, now let's move into the best national championship bets I think you can place. Starting, so, I'm not going to bet a favorite at plus 900, plus 1,000, Kansas and those. I think you got to look for odds a little bit better than that. I mean, who knows with all the injuries that happened and stuff. I mean, Kansas was preseason number 1 last year and up a 4 seed, made the round of 32. So they were right around plus 1,000. Right now, you can get Houston to win the national championship at plus 1,600 on FanDuel. I think that's pretty good. I think Houston should be the co-favorite. I think Houston, Alabama, and Kansas should be co-favorites. And I know a lot of hype's going to be on Duke and Cooper Flagg in that recruiting class. But I think Houston should be a favorite at plus 1,600. That's really good. Next, I do have Alabama at plus 1,500 on ESPN Bet. That's pretty good. They're the most dominant offense in the country. If they can defend, I don't know who's really going to beat them. A couple longer ones. Baylor at plus 2,500 on FanDuel. I like this Baylor team. They got experience. They got one freshman with NBA talent. With VJ Edgecombe, they seem to have all the pieces except for maybe some size. But Baylor won the national championship in 2021 without much size. So Scott Drew knows how to work that. And then finally, Gonzaga at plus 2,000 on FanDuel. I think Gonzaga has all the pieces to win a national championship this year, but that would be my fourth bet to place out of these ones. Now, the longer stretches for the national championship, we're going to do this Texas themed. All the teams are in the state of Texas. No, I'm not a Texas guy, but I like their teams this year. If it's a big state, maybe that means you produce better players, better teams. I don't know. For some reason, I'm big on all the Texas teams this year, Baylor, then these next three. Texas Tech is plus 10,000 on BetMGM. I will keep talking up Texas Tech until they prove me wrong. I think Texas Tech is going to be spectacular this year. Unranked in the preseason poll, plus 10,000. I do not hate it whatsoever. In fact, I love it. Texas A&M to win the national championship, plus 8,000 on BetMGM. Texas A&M returns Wade Taylor. They return a ton of continuity. They're old, a lot of fifth-year guys, a lot of fourth-year guys. They're old. They were just finding their stride at the end of the year last year, almost beat Houston, a fully healthy Houston, I may note. Texas A&M was getting hot. I think if they continue that momentum, they could climb up into they're 13th in the preseason AP poll and plus 8,000 to win the national championship. That's crazy. That is great value. I would bet Texas A&M plus 8,000. And then the final team, Texas, just the Texas Longhorns, national champion, plus 6,500 on FanDuel. They have all the offensive talent in the world. The only question is Rodney Terry. Can Rodney Terry really get the job done at plus 6,500? I think it's worth a shot. These are the 7 bets I would place for the national championship. Houston, Alabama, Baylor, Gonzaga, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Texas. 4 of the 7 schools in Texas. Interesting. Now, I will say I do not like TCU, so I'm not biased towards Texas. I do not think TCU going to be very good this year. I've gotten a lot of questions about Player of the Year, who to bet for Player of the Year. Now, Cooper Flagg is not on the markets right now because he's only 17 years old, and you can't bet on a 17-year-old kid. So I would wait to see what those odds are. I would guess he would be the co-favorite, maybe the favorite with Mark Sears and RJ Davis. I would not bet. Here's my betting advice for this. I would not bet RJ Davis to win the National Player of the Year. I don't think it's going to be him. I think Mark Sears is a better pick than him. Quite frankly, I do think Cooper Flagg is the best pick as the preseason Player of the Year. I took Mark Sears just going into it. I have a hard time going on a freshman. But all things kind of point towards Cooper Flagg as potentially being the Player of the Year. So I would go Cooper Flagg or Mark Sears as the Player of the Year. That's it. Quick podcast just describing some of the best bets you can place. Hopefully you tail. Hopefully these all hit. Really looking forward to seeing how these play out for the rest of the year. Let's dive into our trivia answer. Remember, the question was, what was UConn's odds to repeat as the national champion last year in the preseason? The answer is plus 2,000. They were not like the favorite coming into the year. Obviously, we said that about with their roster, that their roster just wasn't that good last year going into the season. Obviously, it turned out to be just phenomenal. 4 guys going to the NBA. This year, they are the co-favorites right now at plus 1,000, along with Duke and Kansas. So double the odds last year. Hopefully, you bet them preseason. That is great. In just a couple days, we are going to bring you our full preseason preview podcast. A lot of good information is going to be in there, including all of the non-conference games to know about. Already have a list. That's going to be a real fun one, so tune back in for that. Everyone, be sure to like and subscribe, please, before heading out. Follow us on social media and check out our website. Tune in next week. We'll talk to you real soon.